when I found out that you could sell multiples, that was just 10 years ago, right? I was like,
Yeah,
oh
yeah.
my goodness, you know what I mean? And some guys, hey, we sold 21 of these things or whatever, right? Like I hear all sorts of stories about people. And then you came out with this beautiful term, like, who else wants one? I'm like,
That's
oh,
it.
my head kind of exploded. I'm like, we need to talk about this and spend like 15, 20 minutes for the audience just talking about selling multiples in the live auction. And I actually, Dan, it's so common for you and for us to understand how that works. I think a lot of folks listening don't exactly understand the mechanics. So Dan Lyles, world-class auctioneer, a world-class fundraising auctioneer, talking about selling multiples at your next live auction. And I'm gonna quit talking because you're the one that does it. But Dan, appreciate you coming, man. Thanks so much.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me back, Trevor. I appreciate it. Yeah. Who else
Heck
wants
yeah.
it? This magic phrase, right?
I love it. I love it. Yeah, because the beauty of it, and we've had other fundraisers, for instance, event fundraisers go like, I have to have something like this in my live auction because we can raise
Sure.
net $10,000-$20,000 in a matter of 3 minutes.
Oh,
So
yeah.
why?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
great.
So,
Well, I guess firstly, all top tier good fundraising auctioneers, we all sell multiples. That's nothing new. We've been doing that forever. You'll roll the bid up on something and sell it to the high bidder and the under bidder. You get one for 6,000, you get one for 6,000. We all do that, right? But selling multiples, getting more than just the high bidder and the under bidder, there is a little bit of an art to that. And there is a bit of a psychology, a bit of a structure to that. And it's nothing new for like fundraising auctioneers listening to this. They all do it. So they're going to see this and be like, oh, we all do that anyway. But for me, it's just, I have a little tweak on it that I like to do that I think kind of is the cherry on top. It just helps push a little bit more and get a little bit more people involved. And I think there's a whole psychology and structure behind that. So I just wanted to kind of throw that out there first, that most auctioneers do that and it works. But I think a lot of them don't understand why it works. They just know it does. And so
yeah,
I'll kind of like go into that a little bit because I do have a systematic approach to it. And that is the magic phrase, the who else wants one. So I mentioned on our last call, I don't know if you remember, that there's basically two types of bidders. You have that transactional bidder and you have that philanthropic bidder. Remember we touching on this a little bit?
yeah,
Okay, I'll
100%.
recap a little bit for people that are hearing this for the first time. But basically, when you get two different personality types in an auction, like for my wife and I'm very extroverted, she's very introverted. So I would be a transactional bidder. I like to mess with the auctioneer. I like to have a good time running up the competition. I like to bid in a live auction. She does not. That would terrify her. She's a philanthropic bidder. She loves the organization. She'll bid, but it's in the safety of the paddle raise, right? The one-time bid. So you're talking to two different bidders, like your extroverts, your transactional bidders, and your introverts, your philanthropic bidders. So I guess let's start from the very top because it's basically three parts. So establishing value, setting a fixed price, and then asking for the sale. The easiest way I can structure how to do this, because I do this with HGA, for instance, is you've got a great item for this, the Fiesta in Mexico, where you get all four destinations. It's
Yep.
$19.95 for a consignment cost. So that's what it costs the nonprofit. And then we try to sell it, as high as we can or sell multiples to try to make them more money. So I'll use that as an example, not just because I'm talking to you, but because I actually do this live and it works. So take that at the 2,000 price. Typically what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get to $4,000 so I can sell that as many times as possible. I like to do it so, they're getting a 100% markup on it and they're making money, an extra $2,000 on each item that we sell. Now you can use something like that and just run it up to $6,500, $7,000 and sell it.
About that, but yeah.
You get one 6,500, you get one for 6,500. But here's where it gets good. So when you're dealing with multiples and not just trying to sell something twice, you're typically doing that on the auctioneer bell curve. We're doing that on the back end of the live auction. And when I mentioned the bell curve for our nonprofit listeners who might not know what that is, auctioneers typically structure their live auction. We start off with, something a little bit lower cost, and we work our way up to what's going to be our premium item, the high bid item, the $8,000, $9,000, $10,000, or if you're in a real big auction, $15,000, $20,000. And then you come down on the back end and you get to lower cost items. And the reason we do that is because when we're dealing with, 7, 8, 9, 10 bidders that are going to win an item, if everybody was waiting for what's going to be that very last best item and you're saving it to the end, somebody's going to lose that. You're going to have underbidders, right? Somebody's not going to win that $10,000 item. And then where'd their money go? So we like to try to get them to spend their money in the middle of the auction and then have money on the back end to spend. But what we're doing with the multiples is You don't want to come out of the gate doing that, because when you're selling a bunch of them, pop, 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 then everybody's like, oh, he's just going to do that every time, right? It's more of a surprise thing that you do towards the end.
Yeah.
So let's start with establishing value. You take the all-inclusive. You'd expect, what I'm doing here is I'm teeing up the audience. I'm saying, hey, we've got an all-inclusive to Mexico. You guys, what's the magic phrase? All-inclusive, right? You would expect to pay $6,000, $7,000 for this all-inclusive, and I'm kind of establishing that value. You get your choice of Cabo, Riviera Maya, Puerto Vallarta, or Cozumel, and then what I'm going to do then is I'm going to start rolling the bid up, calling the bids quickly, getting a lot of action. Maybe I'll start at like, $2,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4, 5, 6, and I'm getting it up there quick, because once I've established the value and they put in their minds, oh, he's already said this is $6,000, $7,000 item. The bidding's already gone to $6,000, $7,000. Now I'm going to set a fixed price.
Hey, everybody, if you want to know more about the Fiesta in Mexico live auction item that Dan's alluding to, go ahead and go down into the show notes and you'll see the link that will take you right to the HGA fundraising page where you can grab the trip and feature it in your next live auction. Now, back to the show.
The bidding's already gone to $6,000, $7,000. Now I'm going to set a fixed price. And this is step number 2. So then I'm saying, hey, we're going to do something special for the nonprofit right now. Bidder 108, you're going to Mexico for $4,000. Bidder 112, you're going to Mexico for $4,000. And right now, anybody else that wants to go on an all-inclusive to Mexico, and here's step number 3, asking for the sale. In sales, right? We always ask for the sale. And the easiest way to ask for the sale is bid cards up, right? That's what we all do. Bid cards up right now, $4,000. But here's the magic phrase, because that's a call to action. But what we're trying to do is get that magic phrase in there, and that's who else wants one. It creates social proof. There's social acceptance in that. And because what we're doing is we're saying, hey, people have already bought this. You got one. Who else wants to get in on this? And so that little magic phrase right there, like, pushes people to feel that social proof, that social acceptance to go to the next level. Now, I know I went through that quickly, but
no, you're good.
Those are the 3 steps, right? The 3 steps: establish the value, you set the fixed price, and then you ask for the sale, which is the call to action, bid cards up, but you're saying who else wants one. And the reason we're doing that is because what we've done here is we've taken that philanthropic bidder, the bidder that normally waits for the paddle raise, that normally would not bid in the live auction because they don't want to get involved in that. You've eliminated all the risk, you've eliminated all the uncomfortability, and you've given them a fixed price option to where now they're good at putting their bid cards up because they don't have to get in a bid war. It's the buy it now, right? For eBay. Bid cards up, $4,000 right now. And now you shift them over to become a transactional bidder. So that's the impetus in why we do Who Else Wants One. It's mainly because bid cards up is the call to action, but who else wants one is the social proof. It's the acceptance. It's like, oh, they're getting one. Who else wants one of these? Who else wants one? Bid cards up. Yes, bidder 112. Who else wants one? Bidder 117. Who else wants one? Yes, bidder 222. Who else wants one? And you can keep doing that. As long as the audience keeps responding, you just keep on doing it, right? It's a pretty cool concept, isn't it?
I think I love how you tied it into getting the folks that would give it the fun and need as well and making it comfortable for them from a psychology and just like a bidder behavior standpoint. When did that solidify to you? I mean, was it very, very early on, or is obviously this is a work? I want to say you're great at it, but it's a work in progress where you're learning every event as well. In addition, right? But I mean, no one's ever, honestly, like I said, come on the show, or I've never heard anyone say that we're going to get folks that are comfortable giving them the fun and need to now buy a live auction item because they have the social proof and they're going to get with the program like everybody else. So good. Well, that's really
I can't take credit for it, man. My sales trainer from 20 years ago came up with Who Else Wants One and taught a bunch of us how to do it. And so I'm not going to take credit for it. A guy named Chris Lindsay actually came up with it, and he's an amazing sales trainer. But just that social proof of asking for the sale makes people put up their bid cards. And you'll see it happen all the time in a live auction. I just give an example. Like, I do this fundraiser. It's actually an art auction up in Charlotte. And there's this little lady in the front row, and she had so much money. And I'm not talking about a traditional art auction like boring, right? This thing is out of control. This one I do up in Charlotte's crazy, and people get high competitive bidding. And she's sitting on the front row, and every time I look at her and say, it's your turn, you ready to bid? It's your turn, $4,500 here, and then she'll bid every time I ask her. So sometimes they just need that extra push just to be like, hey, it's your turn to bid. And the Who Else Wants One does that, right? It's not just what calling out numbers 112, 108, and then just be like, thanks very much. But the who else wants one? It's like, oh, I got to get on this. And you're putting your big
Yeah.
card up. So there's a lot of psychology to that. And I know that sometimes executive directors, and I've even heard auctioneers say this, well, doesn't that take money out the room, right? Because you're
I want you to double tap on that. I want to talk about that. Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah. So they're thinking to themselves, okay, you're selling multiples of these. Like I've done that a similar trip like that and sold it 32 times in auction. And you were just talking about somebody doing it 20 times. I've heard of an auctioneer doing it 50 times in auction. So you're thinking to yourself, okay, are you taking money out of the room by doing that? Well, first of all, you're creating an excitement and a momentum that wants to get everybody involved. I'm a big fan of consignment. I think that consignment, like I said, especially when you do else wants one, pulls a bidder over that wasn't necessarily there to be able to get something, to be able to get a trip in return for their donation. And so I do 50 of these a year, and I have not seen instances where I do multiples in the live auction and then the paddle race suffers. I've always seen it like increase. Now, I think there are a lot of our nonprofits, some executive directors and stuff, and some auctioneers that I've heard that, doesn't it take money out of the room? I think those are non-sales people. And I've told you I have a pretty strong sales background. So we know you might have heard it before, but it's called the foot in the door effect, right? Mm-hmm. That's a core psychology of this. Basically, if someone agrees to my first request, then they're more likely to agree to a larger request later, which is the paddle raise, right? So what happens is that philanthropic bidder, who now becomes my transactional bidder, they are now committed to the cause. They see themselves more as a customer. They see themselves more as a buyer. And I've eliminated that mental barrier of should I participate or not? Because now they have participated. So when I get to the paddle raise, it's much more likely that when I ask for the donation there, they're going to give again. They already have comfortability doing the paddle raise. They're a philanthropic bidder anyway. And then it just starts increasing revenue. So there's no trickery involved in that. It's just a new identity for that bidder. If somebody participates, they're basically saying, I'm somebody that participates in a live auction, or I'm somebody that donates to the cause.
And if they've done it once, like once again, the psychology, the behavior, the bidding behavior that you're talking about as well. I mean, you said this too. Once someone puts their paddle in the air once, that the pain is gone. They'll do it. They'll do it more readily again, right? Like that's the idea. Yeah.
Yeah, because they're thinking to themselves, they might have just come for a good time. They might have gotten tickets because somebody bought a sponsorship table, and they just at the last minute, the sponsor's like, oh, we got to send people. Let's just send people, from our organization, and they just go on a date night. And they're not thinking they're going to spend. And even if they are, they're going to think to themselves, oh, I might give $100, $250 in the paddle raise, maybe 500, just so I can put up my bid card one time. But the multiples gives them a chance to actually bid on a live auction item without feeling that pressure of I got to get in competitive bidding. And when you're dealing with live auction and transactional versus philanthropic bidders, you know that you're really only capturing, you have 5 to 7 items, right? Typically. So you might get 5 to 7 people, maybe you multiply an item, you get 9 auction items. But if you can do a good multiple and a proper who else wants one, well, now all of a sudden you're taking it to 10 more bidders, 15 more bidders. And so your live auction just balloons, and it carries over into the paddle race.
Massive. The odds that someone is in the audience for the first time is actually pretty high, especially these days, right? Like, right, they're a guest or what have you. Well, we're using the, $2,000 item, $4,000 live auction, cost out the door. We're identifying a new $4,000 level donor that might have never been to your event before. I mean, like that's how long does it take to identify a new $4,000 level giver for development staff? I mean, it's like,
And the one thing I would say to your nonprofit listeners, the people that are executive directors or founders who are thinking, okay, do I need to use consignment? Is it taking money away from my paddle raise? Should I do this? But the one thing I would say to them is what I'm doing is I'm going to I have a pretty high retention rate. So I'm doing a lot of same events over and over and over again. And what happens is people walk away from my events and be like, oh, that live auction was so much fun, or we did that last Hero game and that was such a blast and it was great. And they come in the next year mentally prepared to get involved. They wait for the trip. And I've had auctions where, not kidding, we've sold the same consignment item 7 years in a row. And people still buy it every year because they want to do the trip again. They have so much fun on going to Costa Maya or Cozumel or something. They have so much fun, and they wait for you to do it the next year. They even know I'm going to do it, and they still do it. It's great. It just gets that buyer every year and brings new people in. And then your multiples get larger and larger. It's wild.
That expectation is there when folks travel around the sun with you. We've had the same experience where we've had folks go to the same event and buy items 5 years in a row, and then they start buying them for their staff and and the thoughtfulness that comes. And yeah, we've always said that folks are leveraging their giving budget with their travel budget simultaneously in these scenarios. But that expectation, like you said, is traveling around the sun. And we know, I don't know if I told you this last time we spoke, Dan, we know data science suggests that if someone will come to your event, and let's just say the live auction was fun. Oh, the expectation's there. I want to come again because it was great, because the auctioneer was great. The live auction was fun. The paddle race was fun. It's a great organization. I love it. If someone comes to your event 3 years in a row, that is the best single determinant that they will become a major giver and or a lifelong supporter of your organization. 3 years in a row.
Cool.
Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting?
And so we're talking about kind of lifetime value of that donor at that point. Like you get them locked in and then they'll stick with you. I like that.
Yeah.
It is cool.
So yeah, we're on a soapbox with that one. We're trying to shine a light on that as much as possible. So once again, having a great time with the auctioneer, having a great time in general. Fundraising is not easy. We just put the onus on the organization to make sure that they're following up. And there's the gratitude, program in place with someone that bids $4,000 on a live auction item, for instance, and making sure that you thank those people profusely many times before you ever ask them for money again. But you just got yourself a new mid-level donor at $4,000 that might not have ever been to your event before. So
exactly.
Nothing but
I find that it captures people who are not usually bidders, not usually live auction bidders. That's what I see happen. And you just increase your live auction revenue.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. We needed to have this conversation about and just put it on record, man. So thanks for giving folks the 3 steps. There's going to be some contact information in the show notes on how you can reach out to Dan. Dan, tell folks the easiest way to find you. Obviously, you're very prolific on LinkedIn and a partner of HGA Fundraising. Can't thank you enough for all the work that you're doing. But tell folks where they can find you if they have some follow-up questions about the live auction, paddle raise, anything fundraising under the sun.
Yeah, sure. So I'm primarily in North Carolina and South Carolina. That's my primary markets, but you can find me at danlylesauctions.com. So LYLES. And you can go on there and find my contact information, cell phone. Give me a call.
Cool. It'll be in the show notes. Folks, do us a favor and reach out to Dan, connect with him on LinkedIn, reach out, ask all the questions that you like about the live auction. Once again, any event, powder raise, the whole 9. Appreciate you, brother. Thanks so much for coming back again and explaining how to sell multiples to folks and who else wants one. I love it.
Who else wants one? Magic phrase, baby. Auctioneers all out there need to start trying that. Give it a go. You'll see. It'll increase every time.
Thanks for being so willing to share there, buddy. Appreciate you. Thanks so much, Dan. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Appreciate you, and we'll see you all next time.